Hello everyone, I hope that you are doing well today, and in this video I'm going to be painting a reference photo that I took a couple years ago, and it is a spring photo, but it was a while ago when I took the photo, and so we're going to go ahead and paint on canvas with acrylic paints. And I haven't painted my own photo as a reference in a very long time, and so I thought this would be really fun to show, and also exciting for me too because I haven't painted on canvas in a long time either as well. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about what I'm doing and just sort of what's on my mind surrounding art and creating art. And so I hope that you enjoy this video and that you enjoy me talking as well. So the reason that I decided to paint this subject is because it is springtime and I like to paint things within the season, and also because I haven't painted on canvas in a while, in a long time. I thought that it would be a good idea to start off small on this smaller canvas and to also do a reference photo that is pretty simple as well. The first step that I like to do is basically get the whole canvas covered in a color, in the colors that are necessary for the painting, and I like to use a big brush in the beginning to sort of cover the paint a bit easier and quicker, but also because I don't want to focus too much on detail with the type of style that I'm going for. And so being able to work with a bigger brush helps me to not focus too much on super tiny details. The way that I'm also painting this piece is pretty interesting as well because I do not use the color black at all. I'm using purple and blue mixed with a brown. I'll put in the beginning of the video the colors that I'm using, the actual name of the colors. But yeah, I try to avoid using black because I know that with Impressionism art, a lot of the times they avoid using black. And so to challenge myself, I thought it would be neat trying to do it. I have done a painting before this way where I don't use the color black at all. But it was a while ago, so I don't really remember which piece it was. But I do use the color white to help with the highlights. I don't ever use pure white. I always make sure to mix it with whatever color that I'm trying to tone it down with that would make sense. But yeah, so the second part is, I guess you could say, is the second layer in, and I like to mess around a bit with more of the primary colors that you see. And so the grass is very bright yellowish green, and so I knew that I wanted to have it really pop out, and so I made sure to add a bunch of layers of dark and then slowly come up into the light colors. And as I continue with a different layer, I do use a different brush size as I continue so that it's easier to maneuver, and when I go and add the bit of details that I do, it's not like too much. I do use a smaller brush just so that it is easier for me to maneuver the paint around and just get into the places that I want to. And so with the sky, I went back and made it a bit lighter. Something that I could have went back and done to improve it a bit even better is to have a bit of a darker blue contrast coming from above or from one of the sides, from where the shadow and the light was coming from. But when I was looking at the reference photo, it is a very bright, sunny day that day, and so I was kind of doing my own, but also focusing on the reference photo. Um, I do my own kind of perspective in a way that I make things in the proportion that I would want them to be in. And so the tree that I'm painting right in the front with the shadow isn't as big as what I paint it to be as, but because I know that that's the focal point, I like to create as much detail as I can and a centerpiece perspective with it as well. Now, I do go back with a darker brown color and I add more details to the trees in the back. And it's something that when I look back to view what I'm doing, I realize that I didn't have to go as much into it as what I was, only because the tree that's in the front covers a lot up of what's being shown in the back of what you can see right now. So a lot of the tree branches you're not even really going to see. So if anything, I could have focused more on the right side and the left side just to save paint and to also kind of just have more of a focus put on the edges, knowing that I'm already going to have a bunch of paint in the middle. But overall, it looks fine, and I'm happy with how it turns out. I was kind of being judgmental on myself at first when I was getting near the end and I was seeing the outcome of it, only because I think it's because I haven't painted, like what I said in the beginning, on canvas in a while. And there is a different kind of texture with canvas versus painting on like a notebook or a piece of paper. And that's what I was doing previously, as you guys can tell from my other videos. And so I've just been taking a break from painting on canvas. And so this was interesting and fun to do. And now that I look back and I see the process of the painting and the steps that I had take to get from where I was to where I am, I have more of an appreciation of it, of my artwork now, which I don't know, it's kind of weird to me because usually I've never had that feeling before. Usually if I really like it, I like it, and then if I don't, I'm pretty vocal and I critique myself pretty well about it. I guess it's true when they say you are your own worst critic, especially when it comes to art, because I want to see myself improve. And so there are definitely times where I might be a little too harsh on myself. But overall, I know that there's no need to be a perfectionist about it, especially with the style that I'm going for, more of an impressionism, kind of impasto kind of style where I use thick paint, and I like to have it to where it's not as realistic. It's not as super detailed. I don't know why. I really like this style. I mean, I do know why, but there's a lot to say about it. But in an overall idea of why I'm so into it, sometimes I question it, because obviously it's art, and I think art is very subjective, and so maybe that's why sometimes I question it. Like, I wonder why I love it as much as I do. I will say, I think the style of it is what really drew me to it. I love the idea that when you look at this style, you can tell immediately it's a painting. I just love seeing the paint strokes and the imperfections, and I don't know, just the idea that an artist has a different style. I just think it's really unique. And I know this style isn't always something that people do, and so maybe that's another reason why I'm really into it as well. But as you can see, the details are really adding up. I've essentially been adding a lot of dark color, except for the sky. That's where I did all the light. But as I'm continuing forward, I'm doing a lot of dark, and then I go on to the next light, then the next light, then the next light. So it's essentially like you're building up how dark and then how light the painting is going to be. And then because there is a shadow, I kind of really want to emphasize on the tree as well, where it would be dark, where the shadows would be. And so I like to paint one side of the branches a darker brownish shade, and then the other side will have more of a highlight to it. But when I make sure to add the highlights, I kind of dab the paint on a little and not so much a streak or a line, just so that it can give that effect more, that it looks like wood, um, and it's not super smooth. And then I use the palette knife to kind of mess around and add some more tree branches and twigs and just really small stuff. It's kind of hard to tell, but I do like that I did that, just because it adds another texture and another little detail to look at. And so, yeah, I have realized that when it comes to my artwork, sometimes I expect more out of it, but I know that with the style that I'm doing, um, this is just what it may sometimes turn out to be. And plus, like what I said before with the trees, I could have focused less on the background trees and focused more on just that focal point in the front tree. Um, but overall, I do like how it turns out, and I'm just super pleased. I do want to mention on the left bottom corner of the painting, that is a like a sidewalk patio kind of area over there, and then above it, where it looks sort of like a building, that's an awning in the background. And I try to do my best to make it look like what it is. But I had a little bit of trouble with the concrete area, because there is a shadow that is very sharp going across the concrete, and so there's a huge contrast of color between where it's in the shade versus in the light, and so it looks kind of odd the way that I paint it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, at least to me, I think it looks odd. But then when I explain it, or maybe even when you look at the reference photo and see it, then I feel like you kind of get more of a idea of what it is. I think the awning looks like an awning because that didn't have a crazy kind of very sharp shadow effect on it. So I was able to kind of just have a little bit of light on the very top part of the awning. So I really like how I did the grass in this painting. I used a lot of like a orangey brown, kind of muted tone color, with a lot of dark greens, but also this very light yellowish, bright green color. And it kind of fits well with the bright blue sky, because in the reference photo you can tell it was super bright that day. And so I am very pleased with how I made the colors and how I did um, the shapes and everything in between the tree and even the shadow and the grass and all of it. It does make me happy knowing that even when it does maybe feel like I have a mistake or something that I'm not too pleased about going on in the painting, I have a gist of what I need to do to fix it. I sometimes, what I do is I'll put the paintbrush down and everything, and then I'll just take a step back and I'll sit down in the chair that I got in the room here in the art room, and I just stare at the painting kind of, and I just kind of, without even looking at the reference photo, I just kind of look at it and I just ask myself, like, okay, well, look, what looks weird? Is something missing or does it look off? And then I'll even go as far as to sometimes squint my eyes and look at it, because sometimes there's a shape or even a color that might be off, and it might be a little bit easier to see it when you squint your eyes. But yeah, the squinting can sometimes help out when it comes to trying to look for what is missing or what other details that I can add. And so with the last part that I'm doing right here on the tree, I made sure to add a background color before adding on the mixed color of white that I have, because it's not a pure white. I do make sure to have it mixed with the blue a little bit, but I do make sure to have a background darker color, just so that when I go and add the white on top, it is has a lot more of a potency of a color to it, and also because then there's like shadows underneath of the I guess it's the flowers on the tree before it turns green. And so, yeah, that is the painting. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. Have a great one, and bye bye.